Hello, Internet. Shabbat Shalom. We are in a not destroyed, but definitely less than ideal church. Say hello.
Howdy.
Good morning.
Panama City, Florida.
Yes.
Thank you. I have been unclear where I have been for the last 3 days. I've needed clarification constantly. We're in Exodus today, Exodus 25, which begins the instruction on the building of the temple. And so, with the Torah thing, the Old Testament thing, one of the constant things that people push back with is, well, we don't have to do this anymore, right? Okay. There's lots of things I don't have to do, but that are good for me if I do them. I don't have to exercise, but when I do, it goes well for me, right? I don't have to hydrate, but when I do, it goes well for me. So do we have to do this? That's a matter of opinion and conviction. But if we said, no, we don't have to do this, okay, fine. We don't have to do this. But if we do these things, it goes well for us. However, where's the temple? The temple's gone, destroyed, right? Ish. Now we're the temple. So a lot of the instruction that's in here about building the temple, maintaining the temple, how it's to be treated, to be sanctified, to be set apart, can now be applied to us rather than the temple until such a time as there is another temple. Everybody tracking? Makes sense? All right. And I like I said, I'm just very used to the internet being here, but not necessarily real people. So this is kind of a pilot program for me. I've only done this one time before, and it was during Sukkot 2018. I've literally had 3 cups of coffee so far. Not a whole bunch of sleep, nor has anybody else, because we had to post security last night because this is not the best neighborhood that we're in, and there's a bunch of stuff here. And unfortunately, there's desperate people here. So, who's that? It's Chris. All right. So, beginning Exodus 25. The light in here is tremendous. Maybe if I stand this way. Aha. All right. 25. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, that's us, that they take up a contribution to me, for me. And everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take up my contribution. That in of itself is a point. It's not that you don't just give for the sake of giving, right? It's for everybody whose heart moves them, right? You give from a position of conviction. And it's, we'll get to tithing later on in the book, but you give what you can give out of your heart. Not because it's the thing that everybody does on Sunday morning or whatever. I just feel compelled by other people's actions. It's if you have a conviction, from everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take up my contribution. And this is the contribution which you shall take up from them, gold and silver and bronze, which came from where? Everybody remember? Egypt. Thank you. Mitzrayim. So, they're not just out there in the middle of the wilderness. We'll stop by the bronze store and pick up some bronze. They took it with them when they plundered the Egyptians, which the Egyptians were more than willing to give them all their stuff because everybody was dying. And they said, give them all this stuff lest we die too. You had the death of the firstborn, which is Pesach, which is Passover. So it's, if you think in your mind, this always gets me going too. Think about 3 to 5 million people, plus literal millions of animals, and then like wagon trains full of gold and silver and bronze and all. Like I had this mental idea that was like, a few dozen people and Charlton Heston like walking through the wilderness, and that was the Exodus. And millions of people, hundreds of thousands of what we would equate to as vehicles, millions, if not tens of millions of heads of cattle or, sheep, goats, the whole nine, livestock. So it's a huge deal. This camera is driving me crazy. So, there we go. All right. Internet problems. All right. And blue and purple and scarlet material and fine linen and goat's hair and ram skins dyed red and fine leather and acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil and the sweet incense, shoham stones, which is probably a better way to say that, like I don't know what the Hebrew onyx. Thank you. The Sasquatch says onyx, which is easier to say than and stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate. So this is for the priesthood, what they're going to adorn themselves with. And they shall make me a set apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst. So that's the first foot stomp. If we're going to equate this to us, they shall make me a set apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst. What does set apart mean? Does anybody remember? The Hebrew set apart is the word sanctified, which is translated in the King Jimmy Bible as holy. So holy means sanctified. Sanctified literally means to be set apart. So when the Father says, my people will be a set apart people, my people will be a holy people, a sanctified people, we are supposed to be a peculiar people. You are supposed to be able to tell just from looking at us, oh, you belong to Yah. Okay, you're different. And whether that's the way you carry yourself, the way you dress, the way you identify people, deal with people, it's supposed to be obvious from jump. Oh, you're one of his people. So we are to make to him a set apart place. And lots of hay has been made of these passages by lots of pastors, which I'm not, before I ever read this part of the book. But there's clear parallels here between what the Israelites were doing to be found pleasing in the eyes of the Father and what we should be doing. According to all that I show you, and make to me a set apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst. According to all that I show you, the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of all of its furnishings, making it exactly so. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long. What's a cubit? Anybody remember? Yes, the good answer. This. Yeah. From the elbow to the tip of your finger, or it's typically, there's lots of argument about this. It's approximately 18 inches. Some people say it's 19.2 inches, and it depends on who you are. Harlan's cubit is less than my cubit, and I would venture that some, maybe Brian's cubit's longer than my cubit, so Brian's not here, but Daniel is. The words, they're best. They're tremendous. All right. Sorry, I called Brian in third person last night. I was like, and then Brian will be on shift, and he's like, oh, Brian will? I was like, oh, I mean Daniel. So, my bad. Overlay it with clean gold inside and outside, and you shall overlay it, and you shall make on it a molding of gold all around, and you shall cast 4 rings of gold for it and put them in the 4 corners, 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other, and you shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and put the poles through the rings on the side of the ark to lift up the ark with. Paraphrasing all of the, and then you shall. The poles are in the rings of the ark, and they are not taken from it. And into the ark you shall put the witness which I give you. What's the witness? The tablets. Yep. The 10 words. Man, coffee is tremendous. Which the Father gave to Moshe. Understand that all of that existed before Moshe put it on stone, before he wrote it down. And that's not my opinion, that's fact. If you go and read from Genesis 1 forward, all of the patriarchs were already keeping the Father's commands. They were already doing the Torah. And in fact, like Abraham was, when Melchizedek comes off the mountain and blesses Abram before he becomes Abraham, what he blesses him with is that word. It is that law. It is that Torah. So, and Melchizedek, interestingly enough, Yeshua is a priest in the order of what? Melchizedek. So it all comes full circle, and we see over and over Yeshua showing up in the Old Testament to guide and teach the patriarchs this word, this law. Who's the word? Yeshua. So it's all connected, right? And that's not like, oh, cute story, T, that's cool. You figured out how to make some things work. It's literally in the book. If you just read the book, it's literally right there. And then all of these words and stories that we have about Messiah all start to make sense. I'm covered by the blood of the Lamb. What blood of what lamb? Oh, wow, Passover actually foretells Messiah. Incredible. But you got to know about Passover to understand the atoning sacrifice of Messiah, for it to make sense. And you have to understand that covenants are sealed with blood. So that's why there is a renewed covenant in Hebrews 8:8. That's why it applies to you, Hebrews 8:10, because of the blood, which comes from the covenants which are laid out in the Old Testament. So it's not just oh yeah, I just believe, the four Gospels and some of the letters that the apostles wrote to each other. No, it's the whole thing. The whole thing, because it's cheap otherwise, says me. Morning. Come on in. Literally find a seat. And by that, I don't mean like have one. I mean, you're going to have to find one.
There's a right here. You can come cuddle with us.
They are cuddly.
Big spoon.
Okay.
Hey, now.
So, all right. And you shall make a lid of atonement with clean gold, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and you shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them of beaten work, and 2, it almost looked like heathen in this lighting, and I was like, whoa, I never saw that before. It's not heathen, it's beaten work. At the 2 ends of the lid of the atonement, and make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other. Make the cherubim from the lid of atonement, and it's at its 2 ends. And okay, and so if we just go tactical, practical with this, because the Hebrews were an eminently practical people. And so what does all this mean, right? Like, all right, we don't have a temple right now, other than this temple. If ever there was to be one again, what would we do? What would it look like? Now we know. Here it is. It's here. So if we had to reproduce this, we know how to do that. Morning, Rev.
Good morning, guys.
And so, to that end, like, the instruction is here. And that's a very powerful phrase. The instruction is here. I don't know if you know, but this is a user manual for your life. Like, this is how it works. And the Hebrews are extremely practical. Somebody asked me, they're like, well, how do I interpret this thing? It's like, well, you understand that, like, Shemot literally means names, which is the Exodus they tell us at the beginning who's going and what their names are, right? Like, if we go to Bereshit, which is Genesis, it literally means in the beginning. Like, every Torah portion, like 25, Exodus 25, the Torah portion is Teruma, which literally means offerings. Like, this is how you make offerings. So it's very literal. And so the idea that, like, well, you understand, brother, we have to properly divide the word. And it's like, dude, just do what it says. It was written with the intent of do what it says. There's no pick and choose and properly divide. It's an instruction manual. It's like, how do I turn this radio on? Step 1, put the battery in. Step 2, plug the mic in. Step 3, turn the knob. Step 4, make sure it's on the right channel. That's what this is as well. So on a practical, tactical level, if we ever had to reproduce this, we know how to do it now because it's here. So, yada, yada, yada. And you shall put the lid of atonement on top of the ark and put into the ark the witness which I give you. Second time he said that. Anytime you see something twice in Scripture, it's a foot stomp. He's making sure you understand. Put this thing in there. Like, I don't want to have to tell you again, put it in there. So, which, again, I understand why the Father is the Father. As a dad, didn't I tell you to put the witness in the ark? How come you didn't put the witness in the ark? If I have to come down there and make you put the witness in the ark, you're not going to like it. Right, Harlan? Right. Yes, sir.
So there's an tie into your analogy that it also means put the word into you.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. Put the witness in the ark. Put the word into you. Put this into you. Who's the word? Yeshua. Put it into you. You don't need the Old Testament, man. That's for the Jews. Don't you know that? It has nothing to do with salvation. Or everything. I mean, depending on who you ask. You know, they might just be completely connected and, yeah, impossible to separate. But, you know, who knows. All right. And I shall meet with you there, and from above the lid of atonement, from between the two cherubim which are on the ark of the witness, I shall speak to you all that which I command you concerning the children of Israel. Lots of people have said, okay, this thing's a radio. Okay, sure. Maybe. Don't know. I don't think so. There's been lots of scientists who approach this, you know, and engineers. They're like, well, you could take clay pots and put put grape juice in it and put rods in there, and you can get a minute electrical charge. And if you were to chain those together in series, you'd get a certain amount of charge, and you could hook that up to the ark, and then that would make stuff come out of the cherub on top. And I was like, okay, maybe. Or maybe the Father just did what he said he was going to do because the Israelites did what they said they were going to do. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there.
The book says one thing.
Yeah, the book says, I'll show up and meet you in between these two cherubim. Roger that. Don't know. Here we go with the chemtrail cough. How do you even get a chemtrail cough inside of this? So, what's that?
Asbestos.
Asbestos.
Aliens.
It's the bestest. Aliens. Yeah, it could be aliens. The ones that built the ark, those aliens, and the reptilian overlords.
Where's Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, wonderful. Good group of people. Okay. And you shall make a table of acacia wood 2 cubits long, a cubit wide, and a cubit and a half high. Overlay it with clean gold, and make a molding of gold all around, and make for it a rim of a hand breadth all around. That's this. This is a not knife hand breadth. I just gotta. You ever see the like drawings of the Hebrew priests, like in their full get-up? I just got an image of that in my brain of a guy knife handing in that, checking the table for the hand breath. I don't know. Minimal sleep, very little coffee, lots of driving. Oh my gosh, if we could just intravenously get this coffee into me, that'd be great. If anybody has a Heplock or anything like that, it'd be wonderful.
Don't have one in here.
It's in the tactical minivan.
Jerry rigged something.
I've started buying
Yeah.
before.
Okay, that'd be great, Chris. Yeah, if you could just plug me up, that'd be wonderful. And then put it in an IV bag that I'll put under my arm and just squeeze on it. Yeah, we'll make something work. Okay. And you make for it 4 rings of gold. Put the rings on the 4 corners. That are its 4 legs. Wonderful. Did I just miss an entire 25? Aha. The rings are close to the rim as holders for the poles to lift the table, and you should make the poles of acacia wood and over. This almost gets like the bagats. And then chabada bagat chemene and chemene bagat chabada and chabada bagat chabada, and like when I get to those, I just plow them. I literally am like, all right, guys, here we go, bagats. 2 minutes, and you can fast forward if you want to, because chabada and chabada and chabada. It's just, how do you pronounce it? I have no idea. Like, I don't know. Make for the poles of acacia wood, overlay them with gold. The table should be lifted with them. So we got poles with gold on them, lift the table with them. Make its dishes and its ladles and its jars and its bowls for pouring, make them of clean gold. So we have all this stuff. It's made of acacia wood and gold. Okay, so everything's gold, clean gold, pure gold. And you shall put the showbread on the table before me continually, and you shall make a lampstand of clean gold. The lampstand is made of beaten work. Its base and its shaft, its cups and its ornamental knobs and blossoms are from it, and 6 branches shall come out of it, and in its sides 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, 3 of the other side. 3 cups made with almond flour on one branch with ornamental knob and blossom, and 3 cups like almond flowers on the other branch. 6 branches, lampstand itself, 4 cups, blah, 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 knob under the first 2, blah, blah, blahs. I'm telling you, I'm just like, if we had to make one, now we know how to make one. So, their knobs and their branches are the same. It is all of beaten work of clean gold, and you shall make 7 lamps for it, and they shall mount its lamps so that they give light in front of it. And its snuffers and its trays are of clean gold. It's made of a talent of clean gold with all of these utensils. A talent was a measure of weight. Okay. So it's not like, you're so talented. Because you are. You're fabulous. You really are. You're tremendous. Believe me. Believe me. But it's a unit of weight. I'm sorry. I'm being knife-handed from the recovery couch. Is that what we're calling this?
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Is that what it feels like? We haven't even started yet. We got to go out into the world after this. So that's what I was saying yesterday is we got to make sure that we're filled up so that we can go pour out on others. And in the pouring out of...
In a nice way.
In a nice way, yeah. But in the pouring out of, like, it's gonna drain us. It's just gonna. And so we have to be aware of that. And if you feel drained, pull back. Like, get full again. Filled, fold. It's a word, right? Right, Scott?
Sure.
It's tremendous. It's tremendous. Scott says it's tremendous.
No waterboarding at all.
Can you receive the Holy Ghost by waterboarding?
Browbeating your way to enlightenment.
It's probably, we should at least experiment with it.
I've been at church.
Right?
Nuns have been trying that for years.
We have a consensus. It's not waterboarding if you use diesel, just FYI. So that gets around
Or motor oil.
certain terminology and okay. Anyway, so see, do according to the pattern of which was shown to you on the mountain. Right there, we could have probably skipped the vast majority of that and just come to that. So see and do according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. Okay. If we go back a few chapters, which we're not going to, but when the Hebrews, the 70 captains of the Hebrews were in the presence of Yeshua, the messenger of Yah, who came to instruct them as they're going up to the mountain so Moshe can receive the word. Moshe gets the word from the Father, and he comes back, and he says, listen, guys, here's the deal. This just came down from high command. This is how we are supposed to conduct ourselves. And the Hebrews say, we will do all that he commands us. Okay? And so now we have again, so see and do according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. 26. I'm telling you, we're probably just going to get 25 and 26 today. And there's a lot of analogy in these because, again, the temple's here, right? Until such a time as we have to build another temple. And you know what? We might be in here demoing this temple today so we can put it back together again, which is very much so Habakkuk, my favorite book in the Bible of like, why this, God? Why would you do this? Well, sometimes I need to utterly destroy you so I can put you back together again better than you've ever been. So you'll do what I need you to do, not what you think you need to do. So maybe we'll, actually there's not a maybe. I'm sure at some point we will be in here today.
Yeah, you said those 2 walls will be tore up.
Done. Those 2 walls got to go. Those 2 walls will go. So, but until such a time as we have to actually build a temple, this stuff is largely metaphorical for us and this temple here. And I believe, in the millennial reign, there will be a temple. And the high priest will be Yeshua in the order of Melchizedek. And we'll be doing whatever he tells us to do. And he says repeatedly in the New Testament, if you love me, keep my commands. Right? Malachi 3:6, I am the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts, I change not. So Yeshua says, I and my Father are one. So we're going to be doing what they told us to do right here. There's not like new stuff that we're supposed to do. Now Yeshua comes and he expands upon all these teachings, but the core tenets remain the same. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't be a scumbag, right? So, and this is how we conduct ourselves to be pleasing to the Most High, to create this space in our heart, this temple in our heart that he lives in so that we can meet with him. So, 26, and make the dwelling place with 10 curtains of fine woven linen and blue and purple and scarlet material. Make them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. Many a sermon's been preached on that right there. The work of a skilled workman. It's important to understand here, too, that we were talking about this yesterday. Certain people have interest, certain people have aptitude. It's not enough to just want to do something, you have to actually be good at it, right? And so the Father here is telling us, like, I want people, this needs to be done well, right? And so this is an urging to use your giftings, talents, convictions, the things that you're good at. It wasn't like, you know, Bob from the hardware store who was making the Ark of the Covenant. It was like a real, true craftsman. And so it doesn't mean that Bob can't become a real, true craftsman. But they weren't calling in the B and C teams here. This was the A team, the people who really knew what they were doing that was putting this together. Skilled people. And there's an onus there for us that as we do this work inside of ourselves, that we do it well. That it's not just an afterthought, that it's not Bob from the hardware store gave me a few tips. It's like, no, it needs skilled craftsmanship. It needs to be done well, constructed well. It needs to be strong, durable. It needs to be able to literally weather the storm, right? Because if you just kind of cobble it together, this whole thing falls apart. And there's a lot of that in churchianity where faith has just been cobbled together. And it doesn't weather storms, and it falls apart, and then people are shattered. How could you do this, God? Okay, well, you didn't quite have what you thought you had in the first place. And so, but again, Habakkuk, how could I do this? Watch me destroy you so that there's nothing left but you and me. And then we'll rebuild it again. We'll put it back together again the way it needs to be built. Much like this, right? So, in case you were wondering how long the curtains should be, right? I know, I see you over there, you're dying. Tell me, T, how long should the curtains be?
How long should the curtains be?
28 cubits, which is a long ways. It's like 42 foot. Yeah. Ish, right? With the math? Tremendously?
Yeah.
You can say it, Scott. Was it tremendous? Okay, it was tremendous? All right. Roger that. Yeah.
Curtains are huge.
Huge. Huge. That's true. They are huge.
The boss is tall. You said the boss is tall.
Yeah, the boss is tall. Amen. Yeah, he needs some standing room, you know? Can't be all hunched over. Hurt your back. All right. The width of each curtain is 4 cubits, and all the curtains having one measure. So they're all the same, having one measure. You all right over there? You need some coffee, bro. Yeah. Yeah.
Coffee or seat.
Right. 5 curtains are joined to each other, and 5 curtains are joined to each other. So stick them together, 5 at a time. I'm guessing side by side. And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the curtain on one set, and do the same on the edge of the curtain on the second set. Make 50 loops in one curtain, and make 50 loops on the edge of the other curtain. Like, think of like zippers here. You know how it has like the 2 tabbies that go together like this? This is what they're talking about. The 50 loops on each curtain and the way that they would stick together. Again, like if we need to do this one day, if the Lord, Father Yah shows up, is like, build. Like, but what do we do? Bro, read Exodus 25 and 26. That's what you do. Didn't I tell you? Like, it's there in the book. Do that, right? Right, Chris? Right. Put the loops on it. Yes, sir. 50 loops each side. Got it, Harlan? Okay, good. All right. And you shall make 50 hooks of gold to join the curtains together with the hooks, and the dwelling place shall be one. And make curtains of goat's hair. I'm imagining it took a lot of goat's hair to do this. Not like 3 goats. You know what I mean? Or they were gigantic goats. That's also possible. They're massive goats. All right. The length of each curtain. Okay. For the tent over the dwelling place. Okay, so we have the dwelling place, which is the Holy of Holies, right? And then we have the tent over the top of the tabernacle. So the tent over the dwelling place, we're going to make 11 curtains, and the length of each one of those is 30 cubits. So that's 45 feet, plus or minus-ish. 1.5 times 30 is 45. Yeah, the boss is tall.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Well, yeah, length. They're curtains. They don't lay on the ground. They're not rugs. So yeah, they're not blankets. So I wonder what it smelled like in there.
Something tells me probably not too bad.
Yeah.
With the incense and everything burning.
Yeah. You'd need the incense to get over like literal semi-loads of goat hair is what I'm getting at here. No wonder see again, highly practical. No wonder you're burning incense because there's just like literal tons of goat hair curtains hanging up. Like yeah, and I don't know if the internet has goats, but we have a few now, and they already smell like goats, and they're just goat puppies. They're just little. So and the bigger they get, the more goaty they smell. So. Try Febreze, yeah. A little musty, right. And having some humidity issues in here. Okay. You shall join 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves, and you double over the 6th curtain at the front of the tent. All right. 5 curtains, a 6th curtain, they would overlap. So double them together, right? They overlap. Like if you had 2 knife hands and you overlap them by 1 finger, but one hand had 6 fingers on it. Like the 6-fingered man from The Princess Bride. My name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father. Prepare to die. Yes. Right. Like that. So if the 6-fingered man was making curtains and had hands overlapped, his 6th finger would... The best analogies. Okay. All right. Make 50 bronze hooks and put the bronze hooks into the loops and join the curtains together. The overlapping part of the rest of the curtains of the tent and half the curtain remains shall hang on the back of the dwelling place, and a cubit on one side and a cubit on the other side of what remains of the length of the curtains of the tent is to hang over the sides of the dwelling place on this side and on that side to cover it, both sides. Make a covering of ram skins dyed red for the tent and a covering of fine leather above that. So this tent was red. You could probably see it because it's 45 feet tall, right? It's not tiny at all. In fact, in the back of this here word, yeah. Well, somewhere it has the dimensions, but the thing was huge, like massive. And actually there's some... There we go. I don't know if y'all can see that on the internet, but there's a picture. Thank you. Good job. What is that, an O-light? Streamlight. Nice. So, thing was not tiny, is the point here. Like, it was massive. It was probably about the size of this building-ish. But with this wall, 45 feet high. So 4 stories high. And a bunch of, goat herds are like, yeah, man, we're going to build it. That's the thing. Find skilled craftsmen, because otherwise, things falling over. Which, again, build this well, so it doesn't fall over, so that it can weather the storm. Dwelling place, you shall make boards of acacia wood, more of the acacia wood. Standing up. 10 cubits is the length of a board. 10 cubits is the length of a board. I worked in a wood shop. You don't get a lot of 18-foot long boards. And to make an 18-foot long board then, dude, with all of today's modern technology, yeah, axes, hand planes, you don't get a lot of 18-foot boards. In fact, I could think of one job where we did lots of big jobs, semi-loads of material coming in each week. Where I think we had one job where we got boards that long, and they were not cheap. So, 18-foot long boards. A cubit and a half is the width of each board. So that's 27 inches. They don't make trees like that anymore. Okay, that's tremendous. That's literally tremendous. I feel like talking about the wood shop. I feel like there's still a Stanley 25-foot tape measure right here on my hip, and there's not. But I was gonna pull it out and show you. 27 inches. That's like from the tip of your finger to my shoulder socket is how wide one board is. So, okay. 2 tenons in each board for binding one to the other. This is this is joinery. 2 tenons in each board, craftsmanship. This of a skilled workman, the work of a skilled workman, which is 26 The end of 26:1. 2 tenons in each board. Do the same for all the boards of the dwelling place, and you shall make the boards for the dwelling place 20 boards for the south side, and make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. That's insane. Mortise and tenon joinery using silver, and yeah, with boards that are wider than I am, 18 foot long. Like, this thing would have been serious. Like, I feel like we should make one. Let's just make one. Right? You get started on the goats. I'll find the boards. You're on ram skins. Okay? Gold, silver, bronze is you. Acacia wood. Got it? Okay. Loops. Chris, you're on the loops. All the blue loops. You're loopy? Yeah. All the blue loops.
I need a driver to take me to the pawn shops now.
Yeah, that's probably. Well, remember, they gave it to the Hebrews. We just show up and be like, need all your gold, silver, and bronze.
Trust me, they'll give it to me.
They'll give it to you. That's called robbery.
You sure you don't want me to drive?
Yeah. You might need to drive, yeah.
Motivational speaking.
Motivational speaking. I like that. Okay. And for the south side, do all the board things with all the sockets and the things. In the extreme parts of the dwelling place, that's the outward edges, westward, make 6 boards, and make 2 boards for the 2 back corners of the dwelling place, and they are double beneath, and similarly they are to complete on the top and 1 ring, so it is for both of them, they are for the 2 corners. Okay. If I think this is what it's talking about. A board this way and a board this way butted into it on the corner with rings that they basically pin in place. So, and not necessarily hinged, but that they kind of like this.
Like the dresser drawers.
Like that. Yeah, that's called a dovetail joint.
Right.
But yes, similar to a dovetail joint. That's exactly right. Good job. Fist pump. That's awesome. Yeah, I think based upon that, that's what they're talking about. Which again is not like, that's not a tiny feet. Then you add in that the board's 18 feet long, and who knows how thick. You know, most boards today come nominally 7/8 of an inch, and you plane them to 3/4. So, you know, they're this thick. These were probably,
Massive.
yeah, planks, 3-4 inch thick plank, which again, how do you move those? Well, good thing we did all that working out, building those pyramids for a while. Like we're good at moving rocks, boards are nothing, Chaim, pick up the other end of that, let's move it, So,
They're thankful that there's boards.
I'm saying, yeah, they're like, trees, that's nothing. We've been moving rocks our whole life. So, all right, and that's the boards. 2 corners, and they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under the one board, and 2 sockets under the other board. You shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards on the side of the dwelling place for the extreme westward parts, with the middle bar in the midst of the boards going through from end to end. Pinned joinery. It's pinned joinery. Like, as a guy in a wood shop, that's amazing. It's pinned joinery. That's not a joke. Like, it's a lot of work now with today's machinery, let alone like an axe.
They barely even do it now.
Yeah, hand tools. Yeah, they barely even do it now because it's not. It's completely time consuming. It's insane. You guys are in construction. You know the deal. Like, it's not easy.
Do it as cheap and as fast as possible.
Right. They weren't like, yo, dude, toss me the framing nailer. Pop, 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 pop. It's done. Yeah. All right. And overlay the boards with gold and make their rings of gold as holders for the bars and overlay the bars with gold. Do you know how much gold this is? Everything's got gold on it. It's gold and all the gold, yeah. Gold and red and goat hair curtains. Who is your designer? We need to talk.
Used to drive cruisers outrun. Okay. Because we're going to need a lot of gold.
Yeah. We're gonna need a lot of gold. We're getting away from the pawn shops and more like Fort Knox-ish. There's no gold at Fort Knox. Don't you know about the reptilian overlords? Yeah. Sorry. Wrong video on the channel. Okay. And you shall raise up the dwelling place according to its pattern which you were shown on the mountain. Do I have a pen in my pocket? Does anybody have a pen? I have a pen. That needs a note. Because that was probably, we could have read that one part right there and been good. Other than to make the point of, these guys knew what they were doing, and they weren't half-butting it, I will say, because the internet's here, and we're reading the Bible, and my son's here. But they weren't being subpar in their workmanship. They weren't cutting corners. That's exactly right. What's that?
Not being slack.
They were not being slackers. Like, they put this thing together extremely well. Which, again, put this thing together extremely well. Fine craftsmanship. Take your time with it. Is probably the other point to make here. Take your time with it. And it's okay that it may take you a while to build this thing. And that's cool. The Father is eminently patient. I'm proof of that. Here I am, right? He's got time. He has literally all the time in the world. So, if you're trying to build this thing, keep trying to build it, and build it well. Put it together well with fine craftsmanship, skilled workmen. That's another point too, skilled workmen. Don't go ask your buddy who's like read 3 verses in the Bible and is basically an agnostic what his opinion of how to serve the Father is. Right? He doesn't know. It's like me, if I go ask the auto mechanic on how to castrate a bull, I'm probably not going to get a good answer. Right? He's not a skilled workman in that area. So, and then I would seriously caution you as well. Make sure that even in your church, the people that you're talking to are skilled workmen, skilled work women, because there's a lot of bad information, which is literally and figuratively how we all ended up here in the first place. Because there's a lot of bad stuff out there as far as the doctrines and dogma of men, not this. So, traditions of men. So verify everything against this and take your time to put this thing together well. We often feel like, especially us in the preparedness community, there's this always kind of this sense of urgency, and sometimes it's borderline impending doom. Like, we got to do this thing like now, like right now. Oh my gosh, did you see Trump declared a state of emergency? What's going to happen next? Like, buy food, bro. Buy more food. That's what you do. Like, we do ourselves and the Father a disservice if we rush these things and do them poorly. I would rather, if all you can do is pray once a day, if that's all you have in you, pray once a day. But when you pray once a day, literally sanctify that time, set it apart to the Father. That's what you do, right? And then build on top of that. You can't, if you rush into it and try and do all of these things at one time, it's not going to last, right? Because it's held together with 2 framing nails instead of, mortise and tenon joinery. It's not lasting. So, all right. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine woven linen, the work of a skilled workman, made with cherubim. You shall put it on the 4 columns of acacia wood overlaid with gold. There are hooks of gold upon 4 sockets of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the hooks and shall bring the ark of the witness there behind the veil. And the veil shall make a separation for you between the set apart and the most set apart place, the Holy of Holies. Okay? And you shall put the lid of atonement upon the ark of the witness in the most set apart place, and you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the dwelling place toward the south, and put the table on the north side. You shall make a covering for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine woven linen made by a weaver. And you shall make for the covering 5 columns of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. There are hooks of gold, and you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. That's the end of 26. Truthfully, I can't wait to get a sip of coffee right now. Okay. So that's Exodus 25, 26. As I've said, as we got into Exodus, I love Exodus because it's very practical. Like in Genesis, there's a lot of stuff that I think requires deep explanation. In the beginning, Elohim, yeah, Dude, we could talk about that for 6 months and just read the first 4 words, right? And then the creation story, we could spend a decade on that, right? There's like really deep stuff in Genesis, and then that we get from the big amorphous esoteric stuff into the finer points of, okay, this is how you conduct yourself. These are the patriarchs. This is the lineage moving forward. Then we get into Exodus, and we have this story of how the Father brings his chosen people out of bondage. There's an analogy. Brings his chosen people out of bondage, right? Away from false gods, and moves them into the wilderness, right? There's an analogy. And tells them how to conduct themselves to be pleasing to him. This is what you do. This is how you do it. And then the story begins to change a little bit in Exodus to the literal, practical, tactical stuff of, okay, we're here. We've established some boundaries, some guidelines. You've been in processed. Here's the manual. This is what you do. And so the cool thing for me about Exodus is how literal it is, because it's very difficult when people say, you don't have to do that. Bro, can you read? Like right here. Well, there is no temple anymore. What's here? What is this? Right? Where's Yeshua supposed to be indwelt in us? Where is the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, supposed to come and visit us and live if we don't have a vessel? Right? And if it's not put together well, if it's going to fall apart, that's going to be an issue. And so I think right now we are the temple. And I really do believe come the millennial reign, there will be another temple. It tells us that. Like that's what Yeshua's going to do. He's going to come back and reestablish the temple. I have to believe that because that's what it says, right? And so, again, as far as the proper divining of the word, I can read. If that's what it says, that's what it says. You know, maybe it's uncomfortable. I did not like reading Exodus 21. This is how you conduct yourself with slaves. I don't like that. I don't like it one bit. And I praise the Father that I don't have to do any of that. I don't want slaves. I don't want servants. I don't want any of that. I don't want to be in a position where I need that. But at least we have rules. Hey, if you find yourself in this position, it's 7 years, bro, not eternity. And at the end of 7 years, you let them go. You yourselves were slaves. You were in bondage. So don't go getting high on your horse that if you find yourself in this position, now you take advantage of people. It doesn't work that way. The Father's constantly telling us this is how you conduct yourselves. And even in the tough things of, okay, now you find yourself over the top of somebody else in this less than ideal situation. For me, that would be probably the most less than ideal situation, right? I can't fathom the concept of owning another human being as property. I find it disgusting. But we know what we're supposed to do. It's not a forever thing. It's a 7 years and then you're free to go thing. And he tells them that under the guise of you yourself were just removed from bondage. He literally reminds them at the beginning of 21, he's like, I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you out of bondage in Mitzrayim. So remember that in context when I tell you this. So we have all this instruction in Exodus as to what we are supposed to do. And I think right now it's metaphorically in here, that we build this temple in here until such a time as Yeshua comes back as high priest. And then we will literally build a temple. Why? Because that's what it says in the book. I don't have a better argument than that, because that's what it says in the book. And that's the foundation of my faith. That's what it says in the book. Cool story, bro. What does it say in the book? Well, I was always taught that your pastor's wrong. What does it say in the book? Well, that's not what my grandma said. What does it say in the book? That's not what my grandma said. It's not what my pastor said. It's not what my friends at men's group said. What does it say in the book? If we're not doing what he tells us to do, who are we serving? Right? Yep. There is no gray area in this. Like, we either do what he tells us to do, and we're blessed for it, or we don't, and we are the opposite of blessed for it. And
You pay the price.
you pay the price. And that is literally my testimony, is when I do what he tells me to do, it goes well for me. When I don't do what he tells me to do, it does not go well for me. I'm not telling you or anybody here that you have to do things the way that I do them. But what I do is I flip open that book and I do what it tells me to do. And then the Father stretches out his hand to me and he blesses me. I'm blessed. My wife is blessed. My children are blessed. Our land is blessed. Like, everything we touch has been prospered and blessed since we started keeping Torah. Period, the end. That's my testimony. And it's not been easy, but it's been simple. It's been very trying at times, but it's been good. And it's not because I'm me. I don't deserve any of it. It's because he's him. That's it in a nutshell. Shalom.